Welcome to Real Estate 360, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Tom K. Wilson, will provide you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. Now, here's your host for Real Estate 360, Tom K. Wilson.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Real Estate 360 program, your number one source for all of your real estate needs here in the Bay Area, where we provide you with the information that you need to make the best fact-based decisions. Glad to have you today. We're like you remember that Radio 360, Real Estate 360 is on the air 5 days a week now at 3 o'clock. And we have other hosts for the other days, and we welcome you to tune in and get a large spectrum of topics covered in the real estate investing business. Today we have, we're going to discuss a couple items that are in the real estate news. We have a special guest, Pam Blanco of Professional Asset Management in Dallas-Fort Worth area, who's going to be with us and will give us a chance to have a virtual tour, if you will, of investors and ability to hear from a very experienced property manager and what they feel are the things to look for as an investor to get the best product, to get the best property manager. So that will be a very fact-based and a lot of information I think will be very useful. And then at the end of the program, I'll give you my weekly Tom's Top Tip. So the first thing we'll discuss here is what's going on in the news. One of the shocks which I see today from the FHA is that they have announced that they are seriously discussing changing FHA guidelines to reduce the FICO scores for new applicants from 580 to 620. I should say raise the minimum requirements, and that's a bit of a reversal from the past, so they're considering tightening that up a little bit. They're also considering strongly raising the maximum loan limits and the high purchase price areas, and they're also considering shutting down for 2 years the reverse mortgage program. And anybody who's seeking an FHA loan within 7 years of a foreclosure, they are considering moving the minimum requirement to 20% down. So that's interesting to see, with especially with this administration, which tends to, in the past, to try to make it easier for a broader part of the population to be involved in housing and finances. They are considering tightening this up. So I think if that happens, that probably is good for investors. It may have some impact on the rate of appreciation and recovery, but it also means that there will be more people who can't qualify yet for a house and will need to rent. So those that have rental properties, I think, will continue to do well. Also in the news, Realtor.com, we have the latest results of the end of November inventory, and it shows we're down another 17% from a year ago in inventory. So those of us in the market probably is not a big surprise, but it says the inventory of single-family homes, condos, townhomes, and co-ops dropped to its lowest point since 2007, with 1.67 million units for sale in November, down 17% compared to a year ago, and more than 45% below its peak of 3.1 million units in September of 2007. So the inventory continues to go down, the supply is limited, the demand is still quite high, so we still have pressure for prices to recover and continue going up. I just hope it's not so fast because of this artificial restriction of the free market on the supply side that we aren't starting to create another bubble. But We can't change it. As investors, we just want to understand what's going on and help us predict what's going to happen so we can invest wisely. So we're going to now go with introducing our special guest. As your host, Tom Wilson, I've been investing for 37 years, and I have a large portfolio of homes to multifam products. Some of those are in California, and most of those are in Dallas-Fort Worth, my favorite city. And Professional Asset Management is the company that manages most of my clients' properties, and is and Pam Blanco is our broker there who hosts most of our clients who go down there. So it's great to have her. Professional Asset Management, and Pam has been in the property management business for 20 years, been an agent for that long. She has managed as many as 5,000 units and doors in the past. Currently has her own business for about 4 years, and has about 450 doors under the name of Professional Asset Management. So I'd like to welcome Pam.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Just fine, Pam. So Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
It's that time of year when I know in the South and the Bible Belt, Christmas is really a big deal. I think about every other year I tend to be down there and really enjoy the festivities and celebration and the lights. My gosh, it's a good thing Texas has a lot of its own electricity, because it takes half of it, I think, to light up all the lights at Christmas time.
That is very true, but this year I think it came a little too fast.
I know as a property manager, I'm sure you're very sensitive to how important those tenants are and the staff that is involved in managing your company. What kinds of activities have you done this year with your tenants and your staff to show your appreciation for them?
Well, we try to do a lot of things that are fun for the staff. I try to pick a restaurant to take them to lunch. We spend about 2 hours away from the office, and we try to do something different that they may not do on a regular basis. So this year we took them to a Brazilian restaurant called Boina Brasa. I can't say it, but so we got to have a very nice lunch. It was about 2 hours. We got door prizes. They received bonuses. So I think they had a great time. And for our residents, we do drawings. We try to reward people that pay their rent on time. So everybody that pays their rent before the 3rd of the month, they get to go in a drawing that we draw on the 10th. And we gave away Target gift cards, Walmart gift cards, Christmas baskets, and then everybody's favorite cash. That's
a nice novel concept to reward people who help you be successful, huh?
That is true.
That's great. I know all property managers don't do that level of thank yous to their tenants and staff, and I think that attitude is, I'm sure, part of why you've been successful.
Well, we try to help out some of our struggling residents, too. We had a lady who recently had surgery and wasn't going to be able to have Christmas for a special needs son that she has, so we ended up giving her money so that she could actually have a Christmas, and it was very nice.
That's very special. That's wonderful. Well, let's go take a little visit and have a virtual client, which is I know something that's has probably never been virtual for you. What do you average, Pam, with investors? And you're, as a broker, you deal primarily with investors, don't you?
I primarily deal with investors, and the majority of the investors are out-of-state investors.
Okay, so many of them I know don't go down there. We encourage them to, but for those that do, or even if they're just asking you questions, what are some of the typical questions that they want to know when they're considering buying in Dallas-Fort Worth?
I think the biggest question for them is property management. They want to know, how is their property going to be managed, and sometimes it's hard for them to grasp, purchasing a property out of their comfort zone, which would be in another state. So the majority of the questions pertain to property management. And then, other questions are, how do you pick the areas? What makes this a better property from the others?
Well, we'll get into some of those details, but I have to say that I'm amazed the number of times that I talk to someone who's considering investing, and they just don't have any concept that of the property management industry, and that there are actually property managers out there who really take care of everything. I've had them ask me, but what happens if a tenant's not paying? Do they handle that? Or do I have to find any of my own repair people, or do they handle that? It's a full service property manager really is that. Theoretically, they could go to Hawaii and collect their checks, right?
Correct.
But you don't recommend that, right? They should talk to you once in a while.
Well, they should probably come and visit the property every once in a while. But, we do handle everything from leasing, marketing, delinquent collections, evictions, maintenance, make ready, the whole thing.
Tell a little bit about your organization, your staff.
Our staff our sales team consists of 4 licensed agents and myself. I also have 2 support staff that help us with the transaction closings, helping us get all the paperwork in time, getting it to the title companies, lenders, insurance companies. So we pretty much coordinate everything from the time the contract is accepted all the way through closing. My licensed agents, I've got 2 people who do nothing but analyze properties on a daily basis. So they wake up first thing in the morning, start looking for properties, start analyzing the numbers, seeing if they're going to fit any criteria.
Now, not all property management companies have licensed agents, do they?
They don't. All of our leasing staff are licensed agents. They've been in the business for at least 5 years. They have very good rental market knowledge. So, we choose them carefully because, we want to get these properties leased as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you have about, out of the 450 or so doors, how many of those are houses?
We only have 159 multifamily, so the rest is all single family.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's quite different, isn't it, managing multifam than it is managing houses?
It is a lot different. The clientele and the turnover rate for single family is much lower. So the clientele that you have for a single family house is, a little bit higher income, better, stable type client.
Mm-hmm. How does occupancy vary from multifam to single family?
Single family has been averaging in the high 90s or in the upper 90s, and the multifamily has been probably in the lower to mid 90s.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's a little bit more turnover in the multifamily property, and the type clientele, we have to weed through a lot of applications to get to a good tenant for the lower priced houses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when we come back, we're going to dive into some more details about what a investor needs to know, specifically in selecting a property and selecting a neighborhood. So stay with us, and we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes on AM 1220 KDOW.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Now, here's your host for Real Estate 360, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back today to AM 1220 KDOW, the Wall Street Business Network, where we're talking today on Real Estate 360 with Pam Blanco, a very experienced property manager in Dallas-Fort Worth, who is helping us to understand a little bit about what an investor needs to know when they are in a city and trying to pick a property and a neighborhood to invest in. So, Pam, what do you think part of the reason that the occupancies are higher for single-family homes over apartments right now is just because of the difficulty for many people to buy a home?
Well, I think there's a lot of families that have been displaced due to foreclosures, and once you live in a home, it's kind of hard to go from a home to an apartment community. So they're looking for alternatives in the single family for rentals. And then, qualifying for a loan, it has been increasingly difficult. Even though interest rates are low, the qualification is still tough.
What do you think is the what kind of turnover do you see in single-family homes? What's the turnover rate running right now for your area and you?
I think we've been averaging about 23%.
Okay, so that's pretty good. So that's much better than a typical multifam.
It is. It's quite a bit better.
And what are happening to rents over the past year? They've been stable or up or?
Rents for the most part are pretty stable. We tend to be at the higher end of the rental spectrum, but it's been very good.
And over the past decade or so, I think there was a time during the .com crash when rents were down for a bit. But would you say the typical average has been around 95%?
It is.
Which is a lot stronger than it is in a lot of metros. It's one of the reasons I've liked Texas and Dallas-Fort Worth specifically is the stability of prices and rents, and you just don't see these big swings like you do in some of the other states and cities. Do clients come into town? Are they already aware of that, or that's one of the reasons you think they're attracted to DFW?
I think that's one of the big reasons that they're attracted to this area. It is a topic of discussion as we're driving to different areas.
Okay. So as you're driving around with a client, and today our virtual investor client, what other things do they ask you about?
They ask about areas. They ask about where do these people work? How long is their commute back and forth to work? Which average tenant's going to commute about 40 minutes to work. So, we try to stay in those areas. They're concerned about shopping in the area. How long is it going to take them to get to the grocery store? They're concerned about how many rentals are in any particular area. And then, as we drive around, we talk about areas, talk about locations. We talk about, the construction of the properties and, what draws people to certain areas.
Mm-hmm. I guess the number of employers is pretty important to them too. They probably are already there because they recognize the large number of employers and the breadth of employment.
Yeah, there is a great employment pool. There's corporate expansions. So, that is one of the main reasons that draws them to this area as well. Not just the high occupancies, but the employment.
For those listening to us in the San Francisco Bay Area that may not be familiar with Dallas-Fort Worth, interestingly, the population is about identical and the size is about identical, with two hubs analogous to San Francisco, San Jose, and DFW. Dallas is analogous to San Francisco, and it's a financial and business capital of the South. And Fort Worth is the traditional agricultural center, like San Jose was, but no more. In fact, Fort Worth, which is in the county called Tarrant County, from the stats I've seen, has actually grown a little bit more in the past decade or two than Dallas County has. And it's many of the areas that you get properties and clients buy properties are in areas that one member of the family can commute to Dallas and the other can commute to Fort Worth. Isn't that the case? That
is the case. Arlington, Mansfield, Burleson, easy commute to either one of those places.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to come back in a couple of minutes and talk a little bit about the properties themselves. How do you select the best property? What does that look like? What do you avoid, and so forth. So stay with us. Pam Blanco is here with us from Dallas-Fort Worth, talking to us about what an investor should know in selecting a neighborhood and a property manager. And we'll be right back with you after a couple of messages on AM 1220 KDOW.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Now, here's your host for Real Estate 360, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to Real Estate 360, where we're talking with Pam Blanco in Dallas-Fort Worth, a very experienced property manager and broker in the area, who also manages the properties for most of Wilson Investment Properties clients. We're talking about what's important in selecting a neighborhood and selecting a product, and we're on a virtual tour today with Pam. And she's letting us know what are the important things to look for. So, Pam, let's talk a little bit about the product itself. What makes a good rental property? What makes a bad one? What are things that are hard to see that someone walking in on their own would not necessarily know if they didn't have an expert with them?
Okay, well, the things to look for when you're walking a property, if the property's recently been painted, you might want to look to see if they were covering up any leaks, any termite damage, covering cracks that may or may not be foundation issues. So we look for those. We look for the soil, pulled apart from the foundation, or gaps in the brick. We're looking for windows with blown vapor seals. A lot of the stuff is cosmetic that can be fixed, but, we need to look a little harder at what is covered up. And, I would always recommend that anybody do a property inspection for things that we just can't see.
Let's talk, let's paint the picture a little bit of a typical product after all of the ones that you have managed and bought and sold. And for Wilson Investment Properties, we've now had provide about 300 of these properties that are selected for high quality to many different clients. Let's paint the picture of what a typical house looks like in size and age and so forth.
Okay. Typical properties that kind of fit into our sweet spot criteria is going to be 1990 or newer, good solid foundation and roof, square feet average about 1,500 to 2,500, with a rental rate of about $11.95 to $14.95. Average commute to work about 40 minutes. Shopping close by, low crime in the area. Desirable schools.
Yep. And many of the clients come from California, where schools are very, very important. And what they probably don't realize is that the school standards and results are higher in Texas than they are in California, so it probably is not as critical as the average client thinks it is, but it is important, and you do screen for that, don't you?
We do. That's one of the things we look for. Now, I will tell you that obviously academics is the number one driver for the schools, but as some people may know, Texas is very big on their sports. So sometimes a school, a very desirable neighborhood, feeds into a school district that has an amazing football or basketball program as well. So we look for those as well.
Okay. Anything that attracts a high-quality tenant, right?
Correct. A high-quality tenant and, promotes less days on the market. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this typical product that you find for the clients are, to the surprise of many investors going down, they're all brick, aren't they?
For the most part, yes, they are brick. There sometimes is wood or what we call mason art on the back of the house, but the majority of them is all brick.
Okay, all right. And what's the advantage of the brick?
Low maintenance. You're not worried about wood replacement, wood deterioration.
Okay, all right. Because it gets hot and cold down there, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Okay. All right, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what needs to be considered and selected for the quality of the product that's going to produce a high return on investment. So stay with us on AM 1220 KDOW.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Now, here's your host for Real Estate 360, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back. We are talking to Pam Blanco today, an experienced property manager in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we're learning what an investor needs to know when selecting a neighborhood and product and property manager in any metro, but some of the specifics about Dallas-Fort Worth as well. Do clients ask you about rent ratio, Pam?
They do. For the most part, people are looking for rent ratios that are over 1%.
And the rule of thumb that I think we've learned is that you pretty much need to be at or over 1% with a 20% down for a property with 80% loan in order for it to have consistent positive cash flow, right?
That is correct.
Let's talk a little bit more, wrap up about building, what kind of product to look for. By the way, first of all, when clients come down, they're not familiar with Dallas-Fort Worth, and they're coming from a place like New York or California, are they impressed with the homes they see?
They are. They feel that the products are a little bit more superior to other markets that they've visited. And of course we do a quality rehab on the properties, and the properties, they do look very nice.
Do any of them tell you that the rental property they're buying there is nicer than the one they live in?
They do.
Back in California.
Quite a bit, and much less expensive.
Yeah, that's tough for them to swallow. I know you've told me at times that when somebody drove up to a product, they were sure it was going to be a Hollywood front, and they walk inside and their jaw drops, right? So,
yes. Plus the properties are a little bit larger than what they have, so they're pleasantly surprised when they see the open floor plans.
Is it possible to have a property that's a good rental on one side of a major street, and you go on the other side into the unexperienced, it looks kind of the same, but it's not nearly as good?
That is the case. I mean, sometimes depending on who the builder was, the quality of the construction, you can be in one neighborhood where the rents are high, you go across the street, and rents are considerably lower.
So one of the problems, I think, with brick is that since they don't deteriorate much, you can have a so-so neighborhood that the building itself looks almost as good as a really great neighborhood. You really need to have someone like you who knows how to distinguish between those neighborhoods, I know.
Yes, you need to be able to look at both the rental analysis and the sales analysis.
And let's talk just a moment, not a whole lot, but a little bit about foundations. There are a number of cities in the country, I know parts of DFW are like that, where they've got expansive soil, and to someone who's not familiar with it, they can have a foundation problem that they don't find out until later. What happens with foundations in DFW?
Well, basically the soil is a clay-type soil, so it contracts and expands, and the extreme weather that we have here with consistent days over 100 in the summer, and then, freezing temperatures in the winter, there is going to be some shifting with the seasons, but it is very important that even as a property manager that you watch those foundations and that they're being, water's being applied around the foundation to keep it moist.
So if someone gets a good property manager, they're going to look for that sort of thing and be able to mitigate this potential problem quite a bit, right?
Yes, that is something that needs to be done. The property manager definitely needs to be walking the properties on a regular basis and looking for that type of issue.
So let's talk about that a little bit. With your property management company, talk about what you do on a regular basis for the client with inspections and other things.
We do regular monthly inspections of the property, and we take photos. We do exterior inspections every month. We take a new set of photos for them that is included in their end-of-the-month reports. Every 6 months, we do interior inspections of the property. But on the exterior inspections, we are looking for things like the air conditioner where the overflow is draining on the outside of the house, which typically means that the main drain is clogged. So that gives us an indication we need to go take care of that because a tenant may not necessarily know that's a problem. So we're looking for issues like that. We're looking for, clogged condensers on the outside, deteriorating wood, issues with the garage doors, foundation issues. We're looking to make sure the tenant's taking care of the lawn, the shrubs, and watering the foundation. On the interior inspections, number one, we hold our tenants to a pretty high standard, so we want to make sure that they're taking care of the property inside and out. And when we get inside, we're looking for things that they may not notice, like, a piece of tile that's loose, in the shower where water's getting behind the shower wall. We're looking for broken blinds, any type of signs of foundation shifting with cracks on the inside as well.
I tell potential investors or existing investors that I think it's a mistake to try to be a landlord and an investor at the same time. Maybe on your first one, it's all right to manage it so you can understand a little bit what kinds of problems there are. But my gosh, a lot of investors wouldn't know what details to look for, much less have the time or ability to look at it. So it's pretty important to have the knowledge and hands and eyes of a property management company like yours to keep an eye on things, or they can have some problems, can't they?
They can, and it's important, to set it up right with your tenants and let them know that you're coming to do these inspections, and to let them know that you're not just there to check up on them, but you're trying to protect the interests of the owner and make sure that if there is any maintenance items that could come up, it's taken care of.
What do you do to try to keep tenants happy and to keep them long term? Because turnovers can be expensive, can't they?
Turnover can be expensive, and it's very important that you set it up right in the beginning. You let them know what to expect, and that you take care of your work orders in a timely manner. You let them know that you care. You answer the phone when they call. And we do different types of incentives for them. We try not to work payment arrangements out with a delinquent tenant, but if something, dramatic happened, a death in the family or something, we try to work with them because we want to promote, a longer stay.
Well, that sounds pretty important, and I don't know, when the number you gave before for 24% turnover, which is pretty low, is that yours, or is that a DFW average? That is ours. Okay, and I would guess not all of them are quite that good, but that's excellent. That's about 3.5 years. That's great, because doing those make readies more often than necessary can take away from some of those profits. So we're going to come back, and we're going to wrap up with a couple last questions with Pam. So stick with us on AM 1220 KDOW Wall Street Business Network.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Now, here's your host for Real Estate 360, Tom K. Wilson.
Welcome back to our Real Estate 360 program today on KDOW, where we have Pam Blanco with us from Dallas-Fort Worth, talking to us about property management and how an investor selects the best product to invest in. Pam, to wrap up here on a couple of questions, talk to us about how a good property manager should screen a tenant.
Well, part of what we do on the screening, and I think it's important to do both criminal and background checks. So, we're checking the criminal, we're checking the credit. We also are looking for, the past 2 to 3 years rental history. How do they pay their bills? Are they paying them on time? We're looking for employment. How long have they been employed? Are they making 3 times their rent, which is one of our criteria. So, there is going to be some type of credit issue, otherwise they would be buying homes. So there's some things that we have to work through and figure out why, their credit is the way that it is. But again, I believe that in setting this up and selecting the right tenant it sets the tone for the rest of their stay.
What does an investor need to know in picking a good property manager?
Picking a property manager, I think that's a very key element, and I think you should always check their references. Find out how long they've been in business. What do they do for the property? Are they doing regular visits? Are they including photos? I think you should always ask for the photos. How long is their company actually licensed with the Texas Real Estate Commission? Do they have licensed agents working for them? And I would check their policies and procedures, for delinquents, for tenant screening, for evictions, and even maintenance. What are their procedures, and make sure that their policies fit your needs.
And do they take care of their staff at Christmas time, right?
Right.
Pam, thank you for being with us today. If someone wants more information and wants to connect with you, how can they do that? What's your phone number and email address and so forth?
My email address is pam@pamtexas.com. My office phone number is 682-558-8900. My cell phone number is 817-907-7347.
Well, Pam, thanks for being with us today. You've provided a lot of information, which I think the listeners who are considering investing or expanding their investments out of state especially are really need to know. That's great input. Thanks for being with us, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Going to wrap up here with one of Tom's top tips. I'm going to speak to you today about mistakes. By golly, I think I've made a couple of them in my life. One of the mistakes I think that people make is when they make a business mistake, they want to forget about it. They run and hide and don't really learn from it. And we often learn as much or more from our mistakes as we do our successes. So I think it's make sure that when you have a mistake, that you analyze it and make sure you have a takeaway from it to help you for the future. Thanks for being with us. If you want to contact me and have any questions for me, it's Tom K. Wilson at earthlink.net or 408-867-1867. I'd love to help you with any of your questions or your real estate needs. Thanks for being with us today. We'll be back next week with another good program for you. This is KDOW 1220 at your Wall Street Business Network. Thanks for being with us.
You've been listening to Real Estate 360 on AM 1220 KDOW. For more information on today's program, visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. AM 1220 KDOW.